So do I. His smile held a hint of humor. Why are you all here? We live here, Court happily reminded him. And I'm not missing this moment. Jazz was smug. Phone in hand. It was clear that she had schemes for him in this moment. Ty's car door shut softly. He was rather interested in what the gossip site had to say this time. Gio came at him head on. You know at least one of the drama club is an admin on that damn gossip page. What did you think the outcome would be? Worth it, Ty claimed, his eyes soft with the memory. Like how much? Jazz was hungry for the details. So worth it, his sigh said it all. Jazz gave a muted squeal. So, who was he? Still dunno, he shook his head. My lips were occupied. I didn't ask. You don't know who you kissed? Todd could barely breathe the words. That's bold, even for you, Court's laugh only encouraged. There's something about him, Ty confessed more to himself. But doesn't that sorta? Todd's voice was trailing off. He swallowed nervously faced with the collective stares. Well, I mean, Jazz. You don't seem upset. Why would she care? Court was confused. I do care, she defended herself. Gio accused, because you're as gossip hungry as that website. She pursed her lips at him. A polite, modified version of sticking her tongue out. But, I mean, this guy is bad. You don't want someone bad around, Todd stammered, quickly amending. Are your family? I am someone bad, Ty snarled. He began walking off towards the house. Sure you want to storm off? Jazz called to him. Her tone gave him reason to pause. When he looked, she was shaking her cell phone. I've got the video. Instantly, he was moving back towards her. Why are you only sharing now? Why didn't you tell me you were going to make a move? Video. His fingers moved with impatience. Seeing the look Jazz gave him, all he could do was shrug. Fate keeps bringing us together. So, I wanted to see. So you kissed him? Gio didn't get it. Jazz grabbed his collar to pull him down to her. How was he? Oh, so good. His sigh was wistful. And I was good. I got consent first. There was pain in Gio's voice. On paper, you two should kill each other when left alone. Every account says this guy is aggressive, argumentative, threatening. Jazz listed off. I think he's attractive too. Ty shifted his bag to the other shoulder. I was talking about you, she retorted with a wry grin. You haven't even shown an interest in anyone that's asked you out. Why this one? Gio questioned him. Ty could only shrug. He's not asking. The look was clear. You do hear yourself? Jazz made a pleased and almost envious noise. I hear him loud and clear. Jazz moved a stand between him and Gio. The video was saved, making it easy to find. Not about to pass up the chance to watch, Ty had his chin on her shoulder. Gio had his arm around her lower back. I can't believe you kissed him without knowing his name. Gio shook his head. Yeah, he did. Jazz was grinning like a fool. I just wish the video would have gotten a good look at his face. I want to see the kiss. Were you purposely blocking the angle? Gio gave a ghost of a laugh. Probably. He's gonna be pissed when he finds out this video exists. You recognize him? Huh? Ty asked Gio without looking away from the video. He nodded. The jacket's getting easy to place. Ty noted absently. I kept his face hidden. If I recognize it, you know others will too. Pleased, Ty paused the video. He's holding my jacket. What? Jazz was leaning closer to her phone. So Ty blew up the image to where a hand was gripping his jacket at the waistline. Aw, he doesn't need the encouragement. Jazz, annoyance had Gio shaking his head. True, pleasure was thick in Ty's tone. Gio was beginning to grind his teeth. It's a dumbass idea. He nodded. His tone was anything but agreeable. Seriously a bad one. Gio tried again. Court made an amused observation. Sounds like you want Ty go after this guy. Gio's hand made a fist. They are going to kill each other. Jazz shared a look with Court. Or something. I give up. Gio shook his head in defeat. He began moving around the car, stopping long enough to critique his brother. Where's your bag? We're taking Mom out tomorrow. You're not planning on wearing that. In his signature jeans and t-shirt, Court sneered back. I don't know why you put so much effort in. Mom's gonna love you no matter what you dress like. We're going to a very expensive restaurant. Gio ran a hand through his hair. Mom's going to kill you. She won't. The confidence was strong. We're going to Mom's for the night. Want Todd to stay with you? I'm not a babysitter. His pleased tone had vanished as he walked away. Taking it personally, Todd looked hurt. Court just laughed it off. Don't worry about him. Ty takes time to warm up to people. Not everyone. Jazz was looking at her phone again. Send me that video, Jazz, Ty called over his shoulder. We'll give you a lift home, Jazz. Gio ignored the hot topic at hand. Thank you. She was putting her phone away, turning that gorgeous smile upon Gio. Court, back seat, Gio commanded. Court gave a questioning glare that held a hint of anger. The challenging look was returned with a pointed tilt of the head from Gio. With a resigned sigh, Court moved to the back. Come on, kid. Who said I was a chauffeur? Gio demanded. He'd been about to get in the car when his head had popped back up with that comment from his brother. Jazz was stepping into the front seat. In that outfit, you look the part, Court teased. Move it, Todd. At Gio's begrudging nod, Todd moved to the other side of the car. The morning brought quiet he'd prefer to avoid. So, he donned his workout clothes and headed to the gym. A little, old lady at the gym wasn't a typical sight to see, but Ty knew her well. Spotting him at the same moment, Carol waved. She was nearing 80 years old, but she moved about like a 50-year-old. A loose, purple sweatsuit hung off frail shoulders. From experience, he knew those thin hands were remarkably strong. Her fancy handbag was out of place, but Carol was never without her sparkling handbag. Slowly, she approached. She was making her way slowly to the car she drove every day to come here. It was the only outing her car ever had, or so she liked to joke. People coming up behind her moved around her. They were young and impatient. And criminal. Ty saw a young male snatch the sparkling purse right off Carol's crooked elbow. There was little that the surprised woman could do. Soft-spoken. Her call to the thief went unheeded. But Ty had heard, and the thief still had to make his way past him. His arm caught the kid at the collarbone, sending him crashing painfully to the floor. Shock was written all over the kid's face. As he struggled to get up off his back, Ty had the kid's throat to keep him pinned to the ground. Stupid move. Let go. I wasn't doing anything. The kid pulled at Ty's arm. Carol was walking up to them, and said, Gemstones don't suit you, son. I'll have my handbag back now. Ty was handing it back to her with his free hand. Her hands held his for a moment. Always such a gentleman, thank you. You remind me of my husband back when we first met. Did I ever tell you that he rescued me from a runaway horse and carriage? She had, many times. With a warm smile, he let her know. It's my favorite story of Charles. Security was running over to them by this time. Miss Carol, are you all right? Oh, just fine, Eddie. She waved off the concern. Her purse was back on her arm. Ty was just having a little chat with this confused young man. The guard glanced to the ground. Ty stood up, hauling the kid with him. A firm hand on the kid's neck kept him from running off. Though he was trying to. The other guard stepped forward. We'll call the police. Carol interrupted. Oh, I don't think that's necessary. This young man is just confused. And I'm sure he won't make the same mistake again. Right, son? The kid was scared. And just that, a kid. Carol, a kind woman, wouldn't want to cause him trouble no matter what he'd done to her. Ty was less willing to be kind, but he also didn't want the hassle of having to wait around to be a witness. He squeezed the kid's neck to get a response. I won't, I'm sorry. There's a good boy. She patted his arm. We'll still have a chat with you. The guard waved at Ty to hand over custody. Which he did. And we won't want to see you around here again. Am I clear? The kid nodded and didn't make a move to run when Ty released him. Miss Carol, I will walk you to your car. The first guard offered his arm. With a smile, she took a hold of that arm. Casting a look over her shoulder, she winked at Ty. Carol never passed up an opportunity. It was probably why he'd connected so quickly with her after first meeting her. They were the same personality, just in different bodies. With a laugh, he moved to continue on his way. The guard guiding the kid said, We appreciate you stepping up like that. He waved off the needless thanks. With Carol being escorted to her car, Ty resumed his path to his earlier goal. He emerged a little later from the locker rooms in sweats and a muscle shirt hidden under a hoodie. Cardio felt like the right tone, so he would head in that direction. Water bottle and towel in hand. He was pulling out his earbuds with the other when he paused. On a treadmill, faded plaid was keeping a solid pace. Strong arms pumped to maintain his momentum. A sheen of sweat made those muscles glisten tantalizingly. The earphones went back in his pocket. Though the other machines were empty, there was only one that he wanted to use in this moment. His hoodie came off. The opportunity was too good to pass up. He began punching buttons when he said, "Seems like destiny really wants us to meet." Surprise had faded Plaid glancing over. Irritation immediately sprung up. "Destiny can shove it. Go away. You don't work out to music?" Ty ignored the comments easily. He was picking up his speed to match. "You trying to add to the rumors?" The annoyance was clear. "I don't give a shit about the rumors," Ty laughed. "Do you?" Frustration tensed the jaw as it worked around a moment before he uttered, "I prefer to live my life quietly. Drama either follows you around or you create it." Ty held the gaze as they ran in sync. "You're checking into me." "I'm flattered." From behind clenched teeth. "I'm not interested, but thanks to you there's a video going around now that I have to deal with." "I kept your face hidden," he assured softly. There was a sharp glance of surprise cast his way. Though silent, that look said a lot. A pleased grin grew in strength. "Saw your hand holding my jacket as we kissed." Faded Plaid missed a step, nearly falling off the machine. Flustered, he put effort into his workout, turning up the speed. "You kissed, I didn't." Ty was amused. "You gonna give me your name yet?" "What? Why?" Ty shrugged. He increased the speed to once again match. "Destiny keeps trying to introduce us." Faded Plaid shook his head. "I think until you finally give up your name, Destiny's just going to keep forcing us to meet. And what happens after?" When Faded Plaid finally turned his head to look, Ty grinned suggestively. He expected a blush and an embarrassed snap. He got neither, but was not disappointed when Faded Plaid pressed on flatly. "Why do you even care what my name is?" "Because calling you Faded Plaid all the time is getting annoying," Ty admitted. He glanced over furtively. He was attempting to disguise his curiosity with an annoyance that was shielded by the heavy breathing of a tough workout. "Why Faded Plaid?" Ty shrugged. "Your signature jacket." "Shit, now I gotta find a new jacket. I really like that one." "Why change?" There was a hard look that pursed lips tight. He wasn't talking. The power button was hit, allowing Faded Plaid to jump off the treadmill. He moved away. Hurriedly, Ty followed the motions. Grabbing his things, he ran after. When he caught up, he pointed out breathlessly, "Don't you know you're supposed to do a cool down after a run like that? You're gonna give yourself cramps stopping like that." "Or me." "Your dumb choice to mimic." The dry comment was shot over. They went into the change rooms. The showers held swimmers preparing for the pool. Faded Plaid moved past without making use. "Not gonna shower after that workout?" Ty was curious. "Aren't you?" The question was an answer. "Nah." Ty moved in step with him. "I'll shower when I get home." Quickly, he moved in front of Faded Plaid before he moved past all the lockers. "Not going to change?" Annoyance flattened the look. "Why are you so interested?" There was suggestion within Ty's grin, just hoping for a shameless glimpse. Surprise stalled a response, pouncing on the moment of weakness. Ty's body moving in had Faded Plaid moving back towards the benches next to the lockers. Ty tossed his things onto that bench. Slowly, his hands moved to his waistline where his fingers pulled at his muscle shirt. Inch by inch, the material moved up his honed body. Swallowing nervously, Faded Plaid's eyes glanced about, trying not to watch. The effort was what made Ty smile. His shirt hit the bench next to his hoodie. Ty's eyes encouraged Faded Plaid to remove his with nothing more than a glance. Narrowed eyes met that unspoken challenge. Faded Plaid stepped forward into Ty's space. They were near enough to touch. But it was a game to see who would break first. Faded Plaid reached around Ty, bringing out Ty's smile even more as he moved his head to keep their lips close. A cool gaze glittered in response to the heat coming from warm eyes. Lips moved closer to Ty's neck. The next words came out on an edge. "I don't see a reason to give you a chance." Dancing smoothly around him, Faded Plaid was leaving. Dazzled by the encounter, all he could do was watch happily. A black hoodie moved to cover a sexy body. It was that moment that Ty realized he'd been robbed of his hoodie and his water bottle. His enchanted smile grew in strength. Shirt back on, he followed Faded Plaid to the gates barring entry and exit to the gym. A swipe of the gym card allowed Faded Plaid to leave ahead of him. Ty moved in swiftly, and then was thwarted by the smallest of obstacles that Faded Plaid had sailed through. The counter person had noticed him searching his person for the item in question. "Ty, where's your card?" It was in. He looked over. Faded Plaid had turned back to face him. In his right hand was Ty's gym card. The words, "Thank you," were mouthed over to him. "My hoodie." "Well, no worries, yours was about expire anyway. We can get you a new one." Just give me a moment. He watched his faded plaid left without a second look back. Leave the old card active. Just tack on a guest pass to my account. Oh, sure, can do. There was confusion that wouldn't be sated, for Ty had no interest in explaining. What's up, Mags? If she was calling and not texting, it was important. I don't know what to do with him. It was easy to hear the frustration she was feeling. Wanna switch places for a while? There was a pause. And then, Don will leave for a new school. You deserve a break when he does. He gave a bitter laugh. I meant you can take on Dad. That would be the break I need. What did he do? She could so quickly forget her own problems. If it wasn't for the age gap, he'd think they were twins. He smiled so that his voice would hold that lightness he didn't feel. He shredded Don's acceptance letter. There was a pained sigh. He's going. I know, he wasn't arguing. Don't worry about the tuition. We got it. Mags, his tone was serious, you two have enough on your plate. It was with a laugh that she dismissed the issue. Please. Christian and I are doing great. We're looking at signing a contract with an entertainment company. I can tell you more if we finalize the deal. You're not going to worry about Don's tuition when you still have your own living expenses. And I swear to God, if you think of dropping out. I'm not dropping out, he cut her off sharply. Damn rights you're not, she was firm. Mags, he sighed her name. Worry was a weight on her voice. You're taking care of yourself, right? Mags, he repeated the sigh. Her tone was sharp. Listen. Little brother, I'm trusting you to take care of Don, but that doesn't mean that I don't worry like hell about you. Who have you got to take care of you? At that his smile turned genuine. I've got my family that I've made. In the background his brother's voice could be heard giving their sister a hard time. Christian pretended to sound grumpy as he pushed her buttons. It had Ty grinning to hear it. Mags was no longer talking to him. Look, you little shit, this deal is your fault because it's your friend. But if we want this business to succeed, we need this to happen, which is the only reason I'm allowing any of it. You going to talk to me or on the phone? His brother's voice reached him. Put Christian on, Mags. Your brother wants to talk to you. She was handing the phone over. Which one? The one that can kick your ass, he laughed. Fat chance, you little git. You're still my little brother, Christian scolded. I outgrew you when I was in the 9th grade. It was easy to laugh his brother's threats away. I kick your ass in skill even if you kick my ass in muscle mass, was the reminder. Instead of continuing the banter, he let his brother know Don got into his school. It changed the tone of the call instantly. I knew he'd do it. Dad shredded his acceptance letter. Bloody hell, was the sigh. What's Don going to do? He's going to his school, what else? Mags argued. Ty agreed with her though. I've convinced him to let me handle Dad. Shit, Christian gave a rare swear. And Mom is insisting I come for supper to make up for the last meal I ruined. You're going, aren't you? It clearly didn't sound like a good idea to Christian. What else? He shrugged. Don's going to his school whether Dad likes it or not, and he apparently needs to hear that. Arguing with that man is useless, Christian pointed out. He wants us all gone, that's what he's going to get. He took a breath to calm down. It wasn't Christian that he was mad at. The fist he'd been making was released with effort. What's going on between you two there? Changing the subject? Christian questioned him. Let it go, he advised. Fine, Christian relented. She's freaking out because this is the entertainment industry, high profile. But like she said, these are my friends, and they're asking for help. Is it important to you? Ty asked. Would I do it if it weren't? Then that's all she needs to know. There was a pained sigh. Ty didn't need to see it to know that his brother was rubbing a hand over his forehead. When are you going to start acting like a little brother? The question had been muttered. Ty laughed. Go kiss and make up. Look, I gotta ask, Christian prefaced. How's school? You got any love interest yet? That Kurt guy giving you any trouble this year? Oh God, that had to hurt you as much as it did me, he groaned. Just shut up and answer, was the directive. Oh, you're breaking up. I'm going through a tunnel. You're not driving you. The rest of the sentence dropped off when he disconnected the call. Chuckling, he put the phone down. The textbooks before him were waiting. He sighed heavily. School's fine. I sure do. And it's nothing I can't handle. Tanner, a golden god of our campus. But it seems even gods can make mistakes. An art major and local hottie for 4 years, the sky is limitless on who you could surround yourself with. So then, why settle for the likes of the campus pariah? Ty may be hot, but he falls short of your glory. And with a rising star like yours, please don't darken your horizon. At the top of the ladder, Tanner struggled to safely move the box off the high shelf. Who puts the heaviest boxes at the top? Need a hand? It hadn't been a familiar voice. Tanner glanced down. Even if they hadn't met before, Tanner knew this face. You're Peyton Elliot, and you're the art god, Tanner. The smile was charming as hell. No wonder this guy had so many fans. I really hate that moniker. And I think I was just an excuse for them to write more about Ty. With a laugh he handed the box to the outstretched arms. The box found a new home on a lower shelf. Tanner moved back up the ladder to collect the next. Tell me you're here about the show. We need everything. Especially a hot face on the stage. Easy there. Again that smile that could light up a dark room sparkled. Don't think you're my type. I'm into pretty. He glanced down with laughter in his expression. Guys can't be pretty? Oh, sure, just never met a pretty guy before that could catch my eye. There was a thoughtful look. But I guess anything's possible. Well, don't worry. Romance isn't my thing. He pulled a box closer to inspect it. I'm just desperate to fill the gaps in the production. I'm hoping you're planning on stunts. And if you're not, you need to plan on stunts. You've got experience? The next box was pulled off the shelf. There was a note of caution, not officially with acting, but stunts are a hell yeah. You give me a board or wheels or pretty much any extreme sport and I'll kill it. But 2 wheels and an engine are my first and strongest love. Could maybe work that in, he nodded. An idea already forming. I wouldn't risk your life or anything, but, do you want to talk me out of it? The quip brought Tanner's head down in surprise. Peyton shifted gears when he held up a flash drive. Here's a submission for the artist spot. They exchanged the box for the flash drive. You are a friend. Do not let him hear you call us that. Peyton was laughing as he set the box down. It confused him, and so he paused back up on the ladder. Friends? Yeah, but then Peyton waved the matter off. Don't worry about it. He's meeting a client for a commission piece today, so he can't come. I said I'd give you the submission for your review. Cool, he began moving down with the last box. I do the website work for him. In case you need help in that department too. The box exchanged hands. Really? He set foot on solid ground again. Yep, sadly, can't be outside creating tracks all day, every day. So, I make digital ones too. Wouldn't hurt to have something I can actually put on a CV. What? The look Peyton held was innocent. Okay, he would let that slide. Help with the website wouldn't be a bad thing. I'll check it out. I'll show the team this too, but I think if he's interested, we'll want him. I'll give you my number so we can keep in contact easier. The show can't pay, but you both can use anything you do in your portfolios or CVs, and you get your name in the credits. Yeah, that last won't interest him. The laughed comment threw Tanner. But as they began collecting the boxes, Peyton didn't seem inclined to explain. Boxes balancing on his knee, Peyton was on his phone. There. Sent you a message so you can add me in your phone. I haven't given you my number yet. But already his phone was pinging. How the hell? I promise I only use my skills for good. The grin didn't exactly reassure. Tanner, the melodic voice of Jazz, pulled their attention. I have an issue with this script. There needs to be a lot more kissing. Kissing is very important. Peyton cast an appraising eye her way. Amused, change it then cuz, I know you will. I will, she agreed. Then she acknowledged Peyton. Are you one of our actors? Peyton extended a hand to her. Charm oozed. Stuntman. We're writing in stunts too? Her eyes sparkled at Tanner as she took Peyton's hand. He nodded. I think we are now. You'll need to meet Court. He'll be a big help setting things up to film. Her mind was already racing. Come with me. Jazz had a hold of Peyton's arm, and he didn't look upset by this. He carried 2 of the boxes as Jazz led him out of the storage room. Tanner followed out of curiosity. On this path, they would go through the cafeteria. Given the time of day, it was a good bet that Court would be here. Probably what Jazz was banking on too. They weren't disappointed when they arrived. Since classes were out, a throng of people were milling about. The scents of all types of food hung heavily in the air. Holding Peyton's arm, Jazz took them into the thick of it. Tanner followed behind. Court, she called out. Court and Gio were together at a table. With a bright smile, Court waved back. Gio began making room for them at the table. As they approached, Jazz pulled Peyton forward. Her hand rested warmly upon a strong shoulder as though they were friends from way back. Gio zeroed in on that touch. He stopped what he was doing. Tanner hid amusement behind the boxes he carried. He used the table as a resting point. At her direction, so did Peyton. Seemingly oblivious, Jazz carried on. Court, this is Peyton. He'll be doing stunts for Tanner's show. I wanted to introduce you two now because you'll be working closely together. You two can start by reviewing the script. Make a proposal for stunts you'd like to see. Next Monday we'll review as a team. Whose show is this? Court was teasing. Who is this? Gio was looking coolly at Peyton. She just said Peyton. A smirk played with the corners of Court's mouth. Why don't you listen? Tanner looked at Peyton. You like a challenge, right? He nodded with a grin. For sure. Good thing, he laughed. A familiar voice holding familiar anger stopped the banter short. With just a few words ground out at someone else, it was their atmosphere that shifted. They looked over to see Kurt standing over a table. His hand had been slapped down with force. The body posture was meant to be intimidating. The girl on the far side of the table was clutching her necklace in both hands. Kurt had succeeded in scaring her. Since she faced them, it was easy to see the worry dancing in her eyes. Opposite her, and therefore backing them, a familiar head of curls was looking down at the books on the table. Fingers pulling curls behind an ear couldn't keep them there. That single gesture held thoughtless disinterest. He didn't seem to be aware of Kurt. Or perhaps he just didn't care. You got a fucking attitude problem. Kurt hated to be ignored. Without even looking up, indeed. The tone had been desert dry. Peyton sighed with a soft mutter holding amusement. Oh man, friend of yours? Tanner asked and received a nod. The artist friend who's not a friend. Peyton looked oddly resigned to the situation unfolding across the room. He hides in a crappy attitude, but his work is great. You won't regret having him. The girl was scared. We're just working on something. Peyton's friend seemed to give in to something with an exasperated sigh. Standing up from the table, impatient fingers gathered up the books. I'll be in touch with some concepts. The girl wanted a rescue. Desperation was clear in her silently pleading eyes. Peyton's friend didn't seem to hold a care. Kurt stepped forward threateningly. I want a proper answer from you. Keep waiting. There was a taunt in the brow movement and almost a threat within the words that moved Kurt back a step. With that, Peyton's friend walked away. Is he trying to piss Kurt off? Or does he just naturally piss everyone off? Gio was watching with the same interest that they all held. It usually took a fight or a lot of peer pressure to get Kurt to back off. This guy had just set Kurt back a physical step with nothing more than a flippant comment. He's not going to admit it. Peyton shook his head, but he's helping the girl. What? Gio inspected the scene more closely. But Jazz caught on. Kurt's not even paying attention to her. That puts your friend in a bad spot. It was interesting to see the situation unfolding. Court slowly stood up. Should we step in? Peyton answered with laughter. I wouldn't. You don't want that fight. I'm not afraid of Kurt. Court was insulted. Well, that fight either. Peyton's dismissive laughter grew. Then he switched focus on them. You guys can call me Pay, if you want. Tanner's got my number, so feel free to share. I'll be playing at the pavilion the next 2 nights. Come on by if you want. Really? That had Court's rapt attention. We love that place. I know, was the laughed comment that caught Tanner's ear. Peyton was still talking. I'll catch up with you later to figure out what stunts we can do. Right now, I'll go get snarled at. The laughter with that parting comment didn't make any sense to them. They must have a dynamic within their friendship which apparently wasn't really a friendship. By that laughter Peyton had. It was a dynamic that was working for him. Tanner watched. Peyton was off to intercept his friend who had already vanished. The look Kurt had could kill. It was a good thing Peyton's friend had left when he did. But I didn't give him my number? Court was at a loss. I also didn't tell him he's in, but I don't think it matters. Peyton makes his own rules, Tanner let him know with a laugh. Why does he know you like the pavilion? Court looked at where Peyton had gone. Don't know. Maybe he's seen us there? I'm usually drunk by the time live bands start playing. The girl at the table quietly gathered her things while Kurt wasn't looking. She disappeared into the crowd. Intrigue lighting her eyes. Jazz asked. Peyton's friend is Ty's artist, right? He shared her grin. They're going to kill each other. Gio wrote Ty's interest off. I can bet you anything that they won't. Jazz snatched up the opportunity. A bet? Her look coyly challenged Gio. Fine, he gave in easily, as he always did. What's the terms? Her look shifted to a confident smile. I'm going back. He gestured at the boxes. Court, help me with these. No problem, he jumped up. They walked into a busy theater. Giving directives as they walked, Tanner barely had a breath to give a parting nod to Court, who was handing his boxes off to someone else so that he could get to class. I have some artist submissions for the team to review. He set his boxes down. That's great. Are we still meeting tonight to review? We can meet after classes. Let's make it a shorter meeting though. I promised I'd drop off the forms at student council office. Sounds great. With a slap on Tanner's shoulder, he walked away. Tanner? It was Cry's voice that turned his head. Cries, what's up? I was wondering if you had a moment for an interview later today? Just with me, she shrugged with a shy smile. Not just, he lightly corrected. And of course. Are you free after classes? We can meet here, if that's okay. That sounds great. Her adorable smile lit up her face. I'll walk you here after your last class. Court made the offer as he glided to Cry's side. Amused, Tanner could only shake his head. I thought you left for class? Court put a hand over his chest. I am a man of my word. I made a promise to walk Cry's to and from her classes. You don't have to do that, she was blushing. Man of my word, he stated firmly. Then, with a hand about mid-back, Court walked Cry's out of the theater. He thought they looked cute together. Tanner turned away as his name was called out. Seems like an awful lot to take on. Cry's had a pen and paper in hand. Her phone was recording the two of them. It is, he agreed lightly. But this is important to me. I'm setting up my future the best I can. And since we're breaking ground at this university, it's my chance to ride that wave if we're successful. Probably not noble of me. But Cry's was quick to wave off what she wasn't writing down. I think it's smart. Besides, you're the driving force and you're doing the work, you should benefit from it. No one looks sideways at a business for employing these same principles. Why should we judge an individual when really you're a business too? You're not doing anything wrong. In my eyes. I appreciate that, he said with feeling. You deserve success, Cry's smiled. So, what about your family? Do they support you? For a moment, his smile fell away. On silent. His phone was vibrating. It was the third time since he and Cry's had sat down. Seeing the name on the display, he wondered if it was why she'd asked about his family. He let the call go unanswered. They don't really have an opinion about what I do. So, I don't have to deal with negative comments. Meaning you don't get encouragement either. Her insightfulness was surprising. In my experience, our society supports a business career yet discourages an artistic career. Which is contradictory when considering the amount of money the average household spends on arts and entertainment. You're speaking from experience? She shook her head. No, I'm lucky. I have a mom and a sister that fully support me no matter how hard this field is and how low the success rate is. But I know that's not how it is for most people. I hope you have the encouragement and support you need. He smiled assurance. I have the family you're now a part of. I'll be good. That family was making their way over to them now. It caught his eye how they caught hers. Good, she nodded happily at him. The recording was stopped. Thank you so much for letting me do this. It's a team decision. We're thankful you want to interview us. He stood up with her. Each person in our class has their own social media accounts just for the class. We've all followed each other and are encouraged to interact with each other's posts. We're also supposed to get as many followers as we can. He gently cut her off. I'll let everyone know. We'll get you tons of followers. And we'll get your production a lot of great publicity. She nodded. With a hint of a whine, Court interrupted them. Can I have Cry's back now? Court, he sighed. Ready to defend their important work. Shush, was the quick reply. Walk that way. Work is paused for a moment. He shook his head. Not happening. They're reviewing submissions. And there's a list of problems I need to fix. His phone was going off again. He glanced down even though he was expecting to see a familiar name on the display. He ignored the call and glanced at the text messages coming through. Easy. Court had his hands up. I'm the only one here who cares about any of that. He taunted with a glance at Ty. You sure? I care. Todd pushed himself up from the back where Tanner hadn't even noticed him. Of course you do. Court ruffled the kid's hair. Your marks depend upon it. Worry was expressed in a vigorous headshake. Not just that at all. You know I was really good at drama in high school. You know that, Court. Relax, kid, Court laughed. I'm just giving you a hard time. You need help? Gio asked him. Ty wasn't so willing. It's their stupid decision to do this play. Show, Tanner glibly corrected. He was ignored. Would it kill you to support your friends? Gio snarked. Family, Ty's statement was absolute. Why are you hedging for a fight so damned badly? Gio physically moved forward to meet Ty's challenge. Court pulled his attention away from cries. Actually, I'd say you are more. A text came through. Seeing it was Peyton with an update. He felt a grin grow into a smile that had nothing to do with the brothers picking at each other. If you can spare some time, I really could use help behind the scenes, he let his friends know. It was a fact that with Ty, he alone made up his mind, and once it was made up there was little to no chance of changing it. Unless there were proper motivation. Ty looked pointedly at Tanner. Sounds like you have all the help you need. Tanner set the bait. It'll be worth your while though. The tone was meaningful, and so Ty narrowed his gaze in question. Tanner wouldn't disappoint. The crew voted him in as an artist for the show and he just accepted. Send me the schedule when he'll be here. Ty gave in with a pleased grin. And that's all it takes, Court was mocking. If you're planning on interviewing him, you'd better plan it around the schedule Tanner makes up. Which is good, 'cause then I can be there too to run interference when he gets distracted. Cries touched a finger to her bottom lip. I think you'd be the one who can't maintain focus. Ha, Gio openly laughed at his brother. Ty, with a silent laugh, reached over to pull Cries away from Court. With an arm around her shoulders. He placed her between himself and Gio. I like having a little sister. Me too, Gio affirmed. Cries was blushing yet still looked proud of herself. Happily he watched, as he yet again ignored a call. He hated to ruin Ty's good mood, but also couldn't stop a note of caution. Your artist wants to work when others aren't. I can't promise that our scheduling won't overlap with your practices. Even better, there was a predatory look in Ty's eyes. How is that better? Court asked with amused curiosity. Ty shrugged. He's an Av guy. Court's laughter was audible. And how are you gonna work that one in? The glimmer in Ty's eyes said that he already had the scene in mind. Can't help what shows when I take the jersey off. Cries pressed her fingers over her mouth to stop herself from laughing. OMG, Court's eyes grew small with laughter. You and Jazz. What about me? Jazz and Aang were finally here. Tanner's playing matchmaker. Gio's voice was disapproving. He had to defend himself. I'm just not standing in Ty's way. Smart move, Ty nodded. Smarter not to stand in mine, Jazz joked. We're talking about Ty and his guy, right? What else? Court was shoving Todd over to make room for the ladies in their circle. Todd reluctantly moved. Ty's artist is in, and Ty's helping us then? Jazz was looking between Ty and him. So long as his interest is there, yeah, he affirmed. She softly applauded. Before she could ask, he confirmed, and so long as Peyton is there, his friend will be too. There was tension in Ty's voice when he demanded, who? Still within Ty's arm. Cries offered an explanation. Peyton Elliot, right? He's the extreme sports guy. His videos always go viral. And it's almost a scandal when he's seen with the artist. Is he going to be on your show? Seen? The edge in Ty's voice pulled Cries' gaze. Stunt coordinator and double, by the sounds of it, Tanner clarified for her sake, leaving Ty to stew. She held hope. May I interview him as well? Everybody is hot for him. What? This forceful question had come from both Ty and Court at the same time. From the doors to the theater. He was now being beckoned. Tanner, are you almost done? We really need you. You're coming out with us tonight. Court shifted quickly. All you do is work and help others. You need a night off. Gio backed his brother. Let me see what the issues are, and I'll try. It was more than he probably should offer. He looked at his support. Jazz, run interference for me? I gotta take this call, and then see what's going on in there. I'm on their side, she warned as he was starting to walk away. Knowing she wasn't being listened to, she called out, I'll deal with what's going on inside. And I've already dropped off the forms. So you can take that off your list too. I'm in the sound booth, Court let him know. He waved just before picking up the call. Yeah? Where the hell have you been? The barking didn't come as a surprise. I'm working. But he was cut off sharply. If your work provided me money, I wouldn't mind. What do you need, Mom? The furnace is acting up again. I told you to get this replaced last year. That's thousands of dollars. You don't have the money to buy a new one, he pointed out with a sigh. Just get it fixed. And when are you going to start earning money instead of just taking from me? I'm here on my own student loan. He sounded defeated even to his own ears. Amid her barking, he promised. I'll get it fixed somehow. I'll take care of it. There was no appreciation, no words of love or concern. The call just ended because his mom hung up on him. He held the phone as he considered putting in a call right away. But the peace within moment had a hold of him. He sat down on the stairs, praying that no one interrupted him for just a little bit. Arms were thrown around his shoulders from behind. A warm body pressed tightly to him, and he felt a cheek against the side of his head. He wasn't typically someone that enjoyed physical contact, but I know that delicate vanilla scent. Mel, Tanner, I've missed you. She let him go to claim a seat next to him. You look. She held his face to inspect it closely. He would tolerate her touch because this was Mel. She'd made her decision. Tired. Why are you working so hard? He smiled as he pulled his face away. Because I'm fourth year and the director of this year's production. She sat back with a smile of her own. Executive producer is more accurate. From what I hear, it'll be a miniseries. He was still proud of that. Okay, that's really amazing. Like really. But you still need to eat and sleep, and go out with your friends, was the reminder. And study, he tacked on with a laugh. You're a genius, she waved that one off. But I can tell that you're exhausted in an instant. Because we dated for half a year, he pointed out. And even then you were doing everything for everyone. You need to slow down. Burning out now is bad. The more I do now, the less I can do later, was his friendly argument. Oh ho, bullshit, she laughed back. I know you're not going to magically stop at some point. So, start learning your boundaries now before you're broken. Is this why you came here? He looked out at the university grounds. The sun was at full power with no clouds in the sky to obscure it. Yet, there was still a bite in the air that promised colder days to come, and was a reminder of the responsibilities waiting for him. Mel tucked short hair behind her ear, bumping her glasses. As she set them straight, she was chiding him, don't try to change the subject. You're still on the hook for not taking care of yourself. If you change the subject now, I promise I'll go out with the family the very next time. Ty and the others? She sought clarification. When he nodded, she asked, how are they? Doing good. Court and Gio's mom is about the same. Ty's got a love interest. That's amusing the rest of us. Jazz spent the summer with her dad in Europe. She nodded, happy to hear the updates. Send them my love. You're not sticking around? She shook her head. Can't. I gotta find Mitch. The family is all together, so they planned a big supper. Nice. Mitch'll be inside running lines. Nice for me. That means I have time for my favorite coffee shop. Tell Mitch to meet me there. Before you leave though, you have to give me an update. Retribution for my prying? Gossip for the fam, he laughed. Well, she hesitated. She rubbed the palms of her hands together at chest height. The thumb of one hand worked into the palm of the other. She looked him in the eye. I'm seeing someone. Thinking he might know her concern, he reassured, I'm happy for you. Is he a good person? Actually, her hands rubbed tighter, she's amazing. The words hit, and he knew where her hesitation stemmed from. He also knew how to ease it. With a sparkle in his eyes, he leaned closer to reveal, Jazz is going to be insufferable now. When we were dating, she kept wanting to set you up with a girlfriend of hers. Hands pressed against lips couldn't hide the relieved laugh that emerged. Thank you, Tanner. I'm happy for you. He pulled her into a rare hug. And if this girl doesn't turn out to be as amazing as you deserve, I'll send Jazz and her girls after her. Okay, it's a deal. She laughed into his embrace. Can I have one more promise? He tried not to roll his eyes. What? Spend a little time off this campus. There's a whole world outside these grounds. She held up a finger to stop his argument. The point is that you're not so easily accessible to them. People can do things for themselves. I hear you, he acknowledged. But you're not going to listen, are you? She stood up. Light was the kiss that touched his forehead before she said, I won't lecture anymore right now. Just do your best to treat yourself the way you treat others. I still love you. I love you too. His smile brought wrinkles to the corners of his eyes. It was easy to say this now that romance was off the list of expectations. She waved herself off. His phone was chiming. It was with a sigh that he lifted it up. Mel was right, but it was also on him that he'd taken on so much. He couldn't just change his mind now simply because it was taxing. The alerts coming in were from the theater group. He stood up, putting his phone back in his pocket without answering. They were in the building behind him. The Discord reached him clearly as soon as he walked into the auditorium. The theater was filled with volunteers and crew. Each team was trying to get themselves organized, which was creating the din filling the space. He took inventory of the people willing to help as well as their emotional states. Already people were looking frazzled. He'd best insert himself to ease what tensions he could. Jazz, there was a distinct whine, we all have full loads with school. Some of us have jobs too. And I want a social life. We don't have time to watch some crappy TV too, was the argument that made Tanner wince. Jazz loved her shows. Not surprising. It was a response that didn't make Jazz happy. You're going to make the time or you're going to quit right now. One of the actors shrugged at his friend hoping to pacify them. It's just TV. We can have it playing while we work on the class project. It's not like there will be a test on it later. Jazz threatened. Do you think there won't be? Tanner. He'd been spotted. Look, Tanner shrugged in helpless defeat. I've got a fourth-year workload. I don't have time to oversee everything alone, which is why there are groups. She has like a dozen shows she expects us to watch. They're content for what we're working on. Her arms were crossed. You are the actors. It's up to you to portray the characters given to you. Tanner couldn't help but chuckle. He decided to step in. Go easy on them, Jazz. It's not enough that I know the reference material. Hands moved to her hips. So little ever got Jazz uptight. But her love stories were sacred. He mollified the best he could. It is enough because you won't let the standard slip. How about this? Get Court's help setting things up to watch the shows here while we work. You have the account for the streaming site. And this way you can decide which shows to put on. Mollified to that small extent, she nodded her consent. Did Court make it to the sound booth? She nodded affirmation. Mitch walked up to them. I got a date with family tonight, so I won't be sticking around too long. Mel should be coming by soon. She ditched you for the coffee shop. You're supposed to meet her there, he relayed the message. We'll get the shooting schedule out soon. Did Ty take off? Has he set the practice schedule yet? Mitch nodded. Yeah, he said he'll shoot it over to you. Sounds great, he replied. Mitch slapped a friendly hand to his shoulder as he walked off. I'll go look the wardrobe over, Jazz decided. Before she left, she reminded him, but when we're done here, you're calling it a night and going out with the boys. He grimaced because he didn't want to make a promise he might break. In fact, she called out so that everyone could hear. We're calling it soon and everyone goes home early tonight. The cheers from the cast and crew filled the auditorium. There'd be no way he could get them to stay now. As people wandered off, several approached him with quiet thanks. He smiled because there was nothing else he could do. At the back of the stage there hung a collection of clothing. Some of the crew had gone through the collections to pull what they thought would work best for their lead. He could only hope Jazz would agree. Murmurs were the first alert that something was happening. The feeling in the room had shifted from energetic to tense. He looked over his shoulder towards the aisles, which was the direction the others were looking. A slender hand pulled the hair from the side of her face as Jazz too caught the vibe. Two guys were walking towards them. Peyton was showing off his fit athletic body in fitted jeans and a long-sleeved V-neck. His friend was hiding in a black hoodie which attempted to conceal the faded black t-shirt under it. An old bag hung across toned shoulders. Loose, ripped jeans accented lean hips. Cold eyes conveying boredom almost hid the keen attention buried within them. Tanner, a hushed voice displayed tension. That's Peyton, our stuntman. He was enjoying this moment, and his friend. A direct and cold gaze hit them. It sent the guy at Tanner's side back a step. This guy next to Peyton was hypervigilant. Those bored eyes roamed about, allowing him to capture the entire room, almost one individual at a time. People were uncomfortable. Jazz replaced the guy at his side. The glitter in her eyes said she was eager for the truth behind the gossip. Poor guy couldn't know what he was up against. But then, his fate had been sealed the moment he'd landed within Ty's sights. Peyton, his tone was light, and a friendly wave was meant to welcome them. Best friends, I see. The muttered comment wasn't meant to be heard by those on stage. But that was the way of auditoriums, they carried sound very well. At the same volume but with much more amusement. He's a new friend. And I'm a shipper. That got a sharply worried glare being cast Peyton's way. Peyton's smug grin wasn't meant to assure. His name was hissed. Pay. With the practiced ease of someone used to attention, Peyton ignored both his friend and the murmurs. Hey Tanner, I've got great news. The band said they're in for music if you want them. Seriously? That was great news. There was a shift in murmuring. They'll even write new stuff. They want their names in the credits though, was the caution. That was easily granted. Everyone working on this project gets their name in the credits. Oddly with that, the guy next to Peyton moved to turn around as though he were about to walk away. Peyton's arm held out seemed to be enough to stop him, which was odd because no contact was physically made. It seemed an intentional gesture that worked. Something was whispered, and this time it was too quiet to be heard. Tanner shared a brief glance with Jazz. A grudging nod gave consent, and Peyton's friend turned back around to face them. The air of dangerous boredom returned. Together they walked up to the stage, taking the stairs. Those nearest backed off. Murmurs of discontent were back. They were not impressed with Peyton's friend. Just wait till they all figured it out. Why does it matter? His friend's voice was cold and flat. Seriously? Peyton was laughing. His amusement seemed genuine, much like when Court would tease his brother. It's good to have you on board, he nodded at Peyton's friend. He got the sense that a handshake was out of the question, so he didn't even attempt it. We'll be doing some filming outside and some inside. We're hoping to use your graffiti skills. The school board said it's fine, but the locations will have a dual purpose with the business department. It won't affect you, but I want you to be okay with it. If I don't have to talk to anyone, it's fine with me, he granted. Cool. How are you with set design? He nodded. No problem. Pei said you're looking for logo design as well? We are. We like the work in your portfolio. I'll work with Pei on concept to ensure it's not infringing on any copyrights. When do you need it by? All business. Not friendly, but not nearly as cold as he was rumored to be. I'd like to have the website and social media up for review by the school board by the end of the month. Is that doable? Tanner slid his hands into his pockets as he slouched comfortably. There was a moment of thought before he nodded. Shouldn't be a problem. You doing the website work? Peyton's friend had looked to him for the answer. Peyton nodded. I offered, if you still want it. With that, Peyton tossed the question to Tanner. He accepted. The others are on board for it. Steven is in charge of that department. I'll introduce you. Good. Gruff acceptance brought the focus back to Peyton's friend. Then one final note. My name and my face don't appear anywhere. I'm not a part of the crew. I want no part of any activities. I will walk if someone even thinks of taking my picture. We clear? Peyton laughed. Such a soft approach when you ask for things. There were murmurs asking what the problem was this guy had. Though intrigued, he figured asking wouldn't get him answers. So, he nodded, giving his word, it's not a problem. I'll make sure of it. There was a harsh look at Peyton. He'll make sure of it. We done? Peyton was laughing again. What are you in a hurry for? I'm meeting a client, he bit out. Yeah right, who? Was the laugh challenge. Pei, teeth were clenched tight. You haven't even asked about the schedule, Peyton pointed out with amusement. Or the script. That's what you're here for, was the retort. Peyton shifted his weight. Really? 'Cause I thought I had my own thing to do. Do that on your own time. There was almost a warning in those words. Sorry, how could I forget that I'm your secretary? Peyton was playful. Jazz had approached with 2 copies of the script. These were taken by Peyton, who then handed one to his friend. The handoff had been intentionally to pick at his friend, who took the script with a glare. I would have said bitch, was the caustic remark that lacked a smile. He was looking through the script, and Tanner got the impression that he was actually reading and not just looking for an excuse to hide. You're going to leave, aren't you? Peyton's tone remained light. I don't like crowds. Peyton's friend turned around. He was going to walk out still reading, but as they had been talking, Ty and Gio had been making their way to the stage. Seeing his interest, Ty had zeroed in like a shark moving in for the kill. The chill and bored confidence used with Peyton vanished. The entire room was breathless. Faded plaid. Ty's voice dripped pleasure. His eyes were roving slowly over his prey. It snapped the startlement right out of Peyton's friend. He adjusted the bag on his shoulders and brought back the chill. One word about destiny and I walk on your friend. So, you know Tanner's a friend, but you still came. Ty's eyes were devouring. Next to Tanner, Jazz was painfully clutching his arm in anticipation. I don't need the credits, was the chilled warning. Ty shook his head. Too late, faded plaid, it's so obvious that you came for me. There was a surprised snicker out of Peyton. Peyton's friend shook his head, letting it drop for a moment as fingers scratched beneath the curls. A slow breath seemed to bring back control. When he lifted his gaze, only bored annoyance showed. Name's Sam. Stop calling me faded plaid. It's annoying. Peyton's hand moved to now point at Sam. Stunned was the look. For some reason, Ty looked smug. Giving me a chance now? There was nothing but a look that Sam gave Ty. It must have said a lot because Ty's brows flitted up in a playful taunt. You got a last name? Sam? Ty seemed to be trying out the name. There was a shrug. Would be interesting if I didn't. That seemed to be an answer that Ty liked. In a theater, sound was meant to be amplified. This was especially true when that theater was enraptured into silence. Everyone was waiting for the next response. So, when precariously perched items fell from thin arms, it created an immensely loud racket. Amidst the mess at center stage, Todd looked comical with supplies scattered about his feet. A bucket was rolling slowly away, and the container holding the painting supplies was overturned, sending the contents about in every direction. Tanner couldn't help but laugh alongside all the others watching Todd. With a shake of his head, he looked back to Ty and Sam. Which is when he saw it. The look of repressed fear giving Sam an ashen complexion. His attention had been on Ty, so he hadn't seen the accident coming any more than the rest of them had. With no advance warning, it would be impossible to hide a knee-jerk reaction. Both hands were fists that shook, the left at his side, and the right gripping tightly to Ty's shirt at the waist. Peyton tensely watched Sam. Every hint of humor was completely gone. He hesitated to touch Sam's left arm, leaving his hand hovering uncertainly in the air between them. The stage lights caught the glimmer of beaded sweat on Sam's brow. Blank eyes held an unseen image. Ty leaned close and whispered something that got annoyance washing over Sam. Breath soft. Color began to return. Let's get this cleaned up. Jazz was wiping away her tears of laughter. Then I want to talk to you about that wardrobe, Tanner. Not happy? Not happy, she affirmed. We need a better selection. This is a modern-day show. How are costumes going to help? Tanner looked back over to Sam and Ty. Head turned towards the broad shoulder at his right. Sam was saying something to Ty that brought out an amused smile. Ty's reply got an eye roll just as Sam dropped his hold on Ty's shirt. Sam then turned his attention to Jazz. If you want to save money, check out clothing donation bins. Steal from the needy, was a hushed comment somewhere off stage. For a moment Jazz was entertaining the idea. But then she shook her head. We don't want to take from someone in need. Sam had a simple solution, then just bring donations with you as an exchange. Things you can't use. And when you're done, give the clothing back. Make it part of the bonding experience for you guys. Weighted silence met that. Announcing her presence, Cries spoke up to add in helpfully, spin it right. And it's great publicity for the show. Court came down the aisle. Cries and Aang were walking up. His tone was confused amusement. What the hell did you do? Todd? Court, the young voice sounded excited. Court placed an arm around Cries and Aang to insert himself between the two of them. Thank God Cries and her sister are finally here. Her sister? Really? Aang returned the hold anyhow. The trio walked to the stage with Cries blushing. Taken aback, it seemed to take Todd a moment to figure out what to say next to get Court's attention back. Court, Tanner says that I can help you out with sound so that I get practical experience. I hope that's okay with you. I know I'm going to be a lot of help to you. It would mean a lot. Breathe, kid, Court laughed at him. And clean up your mess. Oh, of course. Todd hit the ground to collect the things he dropped. Gio had used the stairs to come up onto the stage. He stood next to Tanner to ask, what's going on? He hadn't been referring to Todd's mess. I think Jazz is getting ideas for the show. His amusement shone over at her. She was holding the pendant at her throat tightly as she watched Ty and Sam's private exchange. Can we change it to a boys' love story? I'm leaving, Sam announced flatly on that note. Ty let him know, gym's still open for another few hours. Sam gave a grudging nod. Whatever. Both turned to leave as though they had just agreed to something. You know each other works out? Jazz toyed with the pendant at her throat. It's where he stole my hoodie. Ty smiled at her. Jazz made a squealing sound of delight that had Sam closing his eyes in pain. When he opened them, it was to glare at Ty. She's just like you. Ty's grin was one of pleased agreement. Adorable, isn't she? Sam didn't hide his smile, not falling for that. They were walking away when Peyton called his friend out. Thought you had a meeting? Artists are flaky. He didn't turn around to make the dry reply. Alright, cries. Jazz was back to business. Start talking about how we can spin this clothing drive. It's a drive now? Was the embittered complaint from one of the crew. Tanner took over. It is now. We can help our community and get the wardrobe we're looking for. The wardrobe Jazz is looking for, you mean? It's the same, he laughed. He'd stepped in before Gio could. He then began giving directions to organize things.